No, Holly?
Not yet.
This is Political Thursday on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Now, here's your host, Gerry Doherty.
Tax the rich, feed the poor, don't around old, rich no more.
Good morning, New England, and welcome to Political Thursday, the interchange between politics, the economy, your pocketbook that is shrinking by the minute, and of course, the condition of the country that we're going to leave to our children. Well, as you probably saw in the news this morning, the new inflation numbers came out, CPI, the Consumer Price Index numbers, and boy, were they ugly, with a capital U-G-L-Y. They were very, very ugly. So inflation is now running at an annualized rate of 7.5%. That's the highest in 40 years since 1982 when it was at 7.6%. So we're pretty much the same, right? In a 40-year period of time, 4 decades ago. So where were you 4 decades ago when Ronald Reagan had just been elected president, right? First couple of years coming off a lot of the Carter inflation of the late 1970s. So think way back to that period of time. It's, quite a while ago, but we haven't seen inflation numbers like this in that period of time. So what was expected is it was expected from the experts that inflation would be running at about 7.3%, but instead it came in above expectations at 7.5%, which is pretty ugly. So we have gasoline that year over year has increased by about 40%. We have food. If you go into the grocery store, on average, as you know, some are a lot higher than the number I'm going to give you in 1 second, but some of the food prices on average have gone up about 7%, and we have used vehicles. Hopefully your car is going to hold up. Used vehicles have increased by about 40.5%. Huge, huge numbers. So think about that. I mean, used truck prices are up 40.5%. Just amazing. Well, joining us, as she does every day at this time, I want to bring into the conversation Holly Robichard. You know Holly Robichard. Holly, welcome back to the program.
Sure. Sorry I'm a little late this morning.
That's okay, Holly. Is your pocketbook feeling the strain from this?
It's on a diet.
It's on a diet.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter these days.
It is a lot lighter. Honest to God, yeah. Holly. So, Holly, the old expression, it's the economy, stupid. Is that going to hold up here?
I think it's going to definitely hold up. You've got inflation on Red Bull here, and everybody's feeling it. I mean, you can't. I mean, every time you go to a store and you buy something, you look at the price and you go, ouch. And then you go, wonder why this is happening. Oh, yeah, thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Democrats. And if you notice, and I see this because I work on state, races all across the country, and you can see that the Democrats are actually not talking about inflation whatsoever, not at all.
Right.
And the media is so in the tank for the Democrats. The big thing, and I've seen it, like whether it's in a race I'm working in Florida or a race that I'm working out in Illinois, we get the same questions about the January 6th rally. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there must be a DNC memo that went out to all of the media saying, oh, you got to ask about January 6th. Don't talk about inflation. And we've been actually, most of my clients have been fighting back pretty heavily this week, just saying, like, really, this is what you're asking us about? You should, have you gone shopping lately? Have you seen what people are having to pay? Do you know how hard it is to heat your house now with the cost? I mean, my oil bill went from $374 to $1,000.
Yeah.
Just within the last month.
Right. It's energy prices are way up. There's no question about that. And especially, I think that really is pronounced with the gasoline. And, it's so disingenuous, Holly, because you do hear a lot of the Democrats and you hear a lot of the, more liberal stations. I was listening to one driving in this morning on the radio. And they were saying that, what does it really matter? This one economist that they had, it's just such a disingenuous argument. But they're saying, what does it really matter? Because we have wage growth that is taking care of this inflation, and that's not true. Because
Uh,
especially at the lower end of the wage spectrum, you have people who spend a disproportionate amount of their money on things like gasoline and food, going to work. They're not the ones who are able to work from home at computer jobs and so on. These are people who are actually reporting to work. And then, secondly, they spend more money on food. And these things are kind of like hyperinflation right now in this area. It's so disingenuous. Yeah.
to think that everybody's getting that much of a pay raise every time that they every month with what the costs are going up is just it's not happening. You probably people that's why people are quitting and then looking for another job, and you can't seem to keep the employment. But no, to say that pay is going up that quickly, it's not
Yeah.
absolutely not.
And
I
Holly,
mean, and they'll do the media will do anything to justify Biden's existence as president.
right. And as you travel around the United States, do you see that that as you're talking to these candidates and they're giving you reflections on what the average voter is saying and thinking and so on? Does the average voter, I kind of think that they do, so I'm not trying to answer the question for you, but do they understand that these really are Biden policies? This was predictable. People did say a year ago that if you keep on pumping this much money into the economy, this much liquidity into the economy, if you do keep interest rates as low as they are, you will spur economic growth. That is true. But the offshoot of economic growth is that you're going to have to pay higher wages and that we're going to see price inflation. And then the energy policy that the Biden administration has put into place. I mean, I hope that the average person out there, Holly, really understands this has really been a Biden created inflation. Do you think
I
that?
think definitely the average person understands it.
Good.
They understand it more from the energy policy aspect. That look, on first day he kills the Keystone Pipeline, which would allow more oil into our country, and also he killed the leases on oil. So they understand that, and that we've gone from energy independent to energy dependent back on foreign oil, which obviously then we're beholden to foreign countries for our energy. They also realize that when you increase the energy costs, it makes it that much more costly for the product and also for the delivery of that product. So yeah, they understand that everything that's happening is due to Biden. And they don't believe that when Biden says, I'm going to investigate the oil companies to see why they're price gouging. Well, people know that that's a cover up. When he says, I'm going to investigate the meat companies because they're price gouging. People get that Biden's just, trying to cover his butt and, for what he has done to this country with inflation.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I hope that's the case, that people really do understand that,
Well,
because,
if
that
they're
should be
listening to
reflected
your
in
show, they're going to know.
right. It should be reflected in the vote. And then the other side of that, Holly, is that, as they talk about the Federal Reserve raising rates, which now, the Federal Reserve says that they're data dependent, right? So we had that, pretty impressive jobs report from last Friday, the January jobs report. And now we see this inflation, number coming out. So if they really are data dependent, I think it's, pretty much at this point, unless something really dramatic changes between here and March, it's pretty much a fait accompli that we're going to see a rise in interest rates. But I hope that the average person really understands
that's gonna
too.
really hurt.
It's going to really hurt, because what's going to happen, and this is really what I hope the average person understands, is that it's not going to cure inflation immediately. It will be done with the intent of curing inflation. But the first thing it's going to do is it's going to slow the economy down.
Yeah,
It's not going to
slow
cure
the
inflation.
housing market down. It'll slow everything down.
So we're still going to have high inflation. It's just like when they lower rates, right? If you think about this thing in a reverse engineering in a way, when you lower rates, the first thing that happens is the economy starts to speed up. Once the economy starts to speed up, then you get things like job growth, and then you get things, like higher wages and things along those lines. And then an offshoot of that is inflation. Well, it's the same thing when you put this automobile in reverse. The first thing that happens once they raise rates is not going to be that inflation just disappears. The first thing that's going to happen is we're going to have an economic slowdown, and inflation is still going to be persistent. So I
Correct.
got to tell you, I hope that the average person really understands that, because this inflation picture, I don't think, is going away anytime soon. So we're gonna
Well,
see.
no,
Yeah,
and especially when we've got a problem with the supply chain still too.
yes, and also with the supply chains, a huge issue. Holly, my wife was away last weekend. She went out to visit her mother, and which she needs to do once a year. As all of us know, you need to go do things like that once a year. So
Yep.
I was alone. So in all honesty, I'm not really in the grocery store that often. It's not like I'm never in the
Oh, but
grocery
you
store,
had to go.
but I had to go to the grocery store. And I will tell you, as I walked around, now it happened to be a Star Market that I was in, just a particular Star Market. As I walked around Star Market, I was shocked, especially when I went through the freezer section, to see how bare those shelves were. This is not an overreported story, as the Biden administration says. There is nothing in there. Now, I, of course, being alone that weekend, I was looking for steak fries that I could throw into the, oven, of course. But
Eating healthy.
they didn't have any. This is a Star Market. They didn't have any steak fries. They had, a bunch of, more obscure, special French fries from here, there, and everywhere that I wasn't that interested in. I was just looking for a regular bag of those big, steak fries. That's it, to throw in the oven. I was starving, but nothing on the store shelves. I just simply couldn't believe it. Then also, I could not believe the prices. Who knew that milk was this expensive? I had no idea. I really didn't. I mean, it's simply amazing,
Yeah.
Holly. So these are very real things. And so now we have, roughly 6 months or so, 6 or 7 months, until those November elections, the midterm elections coming around. And
Relief is on the way, I guess.
yeah, I don't think any relief is on the way. And if it is
Well,
true that it's,
hopefully in November it
yeah,
will be relief where
yeah,
we can stop a
oh,
lot of the
yes,
Biden policies. I'm not
yes,
sure that
yeah,
the Congress can say yes to the Keystone Pipeline or the leases, but there's other things that they can definitely do to stop the craziness coming out of Washington.
yeah. I don't think, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I see what you're saying. I misinterpreted that relief is on the way in terms of people voting Republican in November. And I think that that's, just something that, you don't have a brain at this point if you're not going to vote Republican in November. But I don't see relief from this inflation happening before November. Again, because the first thing has to be that economic slowdown, and then secondly, we have to have a much different energy policy and so on, and that's not going to turn on a dime. So it's going to be very interesting. To your point too, I do think that this whole January 6th thing seems to be heating up because it's just a big distraction. But it's another one of these big distractions that, we seem to have had with the Russia collusion investigation and all of this. Don't look over there. Keep your eye over here, is, essentially what the Democrats are saying. It's a ruse. It's a ruse to fool the American people. The reality is if you want more of this, high inflation, if you want more geopolitical problems around the world, if you want to continue to pay 40% more at least at the gas pump than what you were paying a year ago, just continue down the same path. That's what's going to happen. So, Holly, how do you see those races that you're working on around the United States shaping up?
Right now, everybody's in a primary. There's tons and tons of primaries, so like never before happening. And these primaries are pretty crowded because people are so ticked off about what's happening. So it's going to be interesting. The first set of primaries are coming up in March in Texas, and we're looking forward to some good success there. And right now my candidates are doing really well, so I'm very happy. So
Excellent. Excellent. That sounds great. Yeah. So, what about on the Democrat side? What do you see? I know you're not working on any of those races, but what do you
no,
see?
definitely not.
Definitely not. But I know you keep I was going to say a loose eye, but I'm sure you keep a very close eye on the other side of it as well, understanding what the
Well,
opposition is
they're
doing.
aggressively raising money.
Yeah.
The Democrats, they are aggressively raising money, and they don't have that many primaries because people are not that motivated to go out and support the Biden agenda. And what I see on the Democrat side is that they don't want to talk about Biden. They don't want Biden coming into their state, and they talk about everything but Biden. So it's kind of interesting, and none of them are talking inflation, which, if they don't, if they don't address the 800-pound gorilla in the room, they're going to go down. So I'm loving it.
Right. Right. And we'll see, too, on this cognitive testing that they want to give to the president as well. What will happen there? Boy, did we hear a lot about cognitive testing, and did we have a lot of informal panels on, with non-doctors making all of their diagnosis. And now, boy, the pendulum has swung in the opposite direction, how it's, you could hear a pin
Live
drop
by
in
the
room.
test and die by the test.
Exactly. It's really true. Well, Holly, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank
As
you.
always, I really appreciate it. I wish you a great Valentine's Day weekend, by the way.
All right.
Coming up
Thank
right
you.
around the corner. So anyway, well,
All
Holly
right.
Robichaux, thank you very much. Look,
Hopefully your wife is home. So
she is. She's actually back, and we're ready to enjoy a nice Valentine's Day weekend as well. So,
Okay,
all right.
great.
Well, Holly Robichaux, thank you very much for
Thanks.
joining us this morning. I look forward to speaking to you next week.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to take a short time out. You're listening to Political Thursday, heard every Thursday right here on WCRN from 10 to 11 in the morning. My name is Gerry Doherty. When I come back after the break, I'm going to be joined by Joe Mangiacotti. You know Joe from the Joe Mangiacotti Show, heard every Saturday and Sunday morning right here on WCRN, and Monday afternoon. Joe Mangiacotti. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can at 508-871-7000. Again, that's 508-871-7000. I'll be right back.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Oh! Yeah.
From estate planning to tax preparation, probate, real estate, accounting, and more, you get total guidance from Total Counsel Law Group. Attorney Alan Margulies and his staff will guide and advise you through life's big and often complicated moments. Their comprehensive estate planning covers nearly every aspect of life. Contact Alan Margulies today, 508-650-9900, or visit TotalCounselor.com. Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge is a shining example of excellence in golf. Shining Rock Golf Club's highest priority is your golf experience, and their award-winning 18-hole luxury and challenging golf course will deliver. And for shining moments and memorable events, the Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge delivers again. Plan your next tournament, fundraiser, or corporate event at Shining Rock Golf Club. Events and budgets of all sizes are welcome. Shining
That's a heck of a text.
Country, the USA since 1990, we produced 30%, 37%. As of today, we produce 13% of world chips and has China backseated plans. Joe Biden wants to give tax relief to get the chips back, yet I know that's fake news.
ShiningRock.com. Shining Rock Golf Club of Northbridge.
Was that okay?
1 minute.
Could hear anything.
Feel kind of isolated.
I had the radio so high that the neighbors complained.
If you or a loved one can identify with this, the hearing aid specialists Peter
I
and
just have to
Alex
make it
Lee
through the next
at Professional Hearing on 33
24
Lyman Street
hours.
in Westboro can
Right.
correct
And then
or
we have
restore
Nancy
your
Usami, we
hearing.
have a
Don't miss out on what you're not
couple
hearing.
of our drunken
Call
friends
Peter and
coming
Alex
over
Lee at
5 o'clock tomorrow for a drink,
508-366.
and then we're taking off. We're going down to Newport for the weekend. A Saturday morning. Yes.
Goat Island.
I would
Sure,
not
no, just,
hesitate
some
to recommend
Are
Peter
they drunk before they get there?
having
Dan,
hearing
Bob is
difficulties.
apparently
Sometimes we don't
tied up
realize
somewhere.
that
So
we're having
Dan said
hearing
he wants to come over for a
difficulties
drink
until
at
we have our hearing test.
All right, here we go.
To
I don't wanna
find out
make
if
it
you have
late
a
night.
hearing loss,
Because
call
we have
today.
we have a nice weekend planned,
508-366-8686.
so I wanna
Or
be
go to
careful.
prohearinghealth.com.
I don't want any
Professional
problems on
Hearing in
Friday night.
Westboro. Schedule your free consultation now. Now, Political Thursday continues on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Once again, here's your host, Gerry Doherty.
Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are no rich no more.
Welcome back to Political Thursday, and I'm sitting here right now with Mr. Joe Mangiacotti from the Joe
Absolutely.
Mangiacotti Show. Joe, welcome back to the program. You are magnanimous, and I want to begin by thanking you for sitting in for me last week when I had a chest cold.
And, that's right. You weren't
almost
here last
lost
week.
Almost lost my voice, which many people may consider a good thing.
But, yeah, you were sounding rough there for a day, huh?
I was sounding rough there for 2 or 3 days, and then you valiantly stepped in and handled everything. So I appreciate it very much. Yeah,
it's good to be here anyway.
Yeah.
No sweat.
Yeah. Well, it was very nice of you to do that. But Joe, I have to tell you, I know we have a lot to talk about, especially during the second half hour. We want to get into a lot of different issues. But the first thing that I want to just touch on quickly for the time that we have remaining in this half hour is these inflation numbers, the CPI. I mean, this is getting downright scary, because we have an overall number of 7.5%. But as you know, certain categories, like I was mentioning, used vehicles, just hope your car doesn't break down, for goodness sakes.
That is amazing.
40.5% in a 12-month period of time.
Aren't you glad we both got new cars a little while ago, right before it went up? So we're going to have to make these ones last, right? Because I'm not going used car shopping anytime soon. 30, 40%, depending on the model and the brand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And these dealers can't get them, Gerry. Like they can't get the cars. There's a shortage of them, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, no, you have people selling their used cars
because they need to buy dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Because they need to buy dinner. But
so
if you
I got you a present,
by
the way.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I got you this pack. It's like 50 of these little stickers of Joe Biden pointing up, saying, "I did that. I want you to put them on every gas station pump that you use over the next couple of months, just so people."
It's a great visual.
That's what I did that. Yeah. Like Holly said, they know, people know that the, ridiculous gas prices, the meat prices, the milk prices, everything, they know it's all because of Biden policies. It's not like people going, "Oh, why is everything so crazy?" And 100%, the smokescreen is, only 4 companies control the meat. Okay, yeah, let's have that conversation. But that wasn't an issue a year ago. 2 years ago, 5 years ago.
It's been that way with those 3 or 4 companies controlling the meat industry for the past 20 or 25 years.
I mean, on that conversation.
So why now?
Yeah.
Why now?
Right. There's only a handful of companies that control basically all of the food production when you get down to it. So it's a smokescreen, it's a diversion, it's a sleight of hand. It's just, this is what I'm going to know. We know why it is, because that truckload of that 40-foot freezer truckload tractor trailer that's bringing meat from Oklahoma or up from Mexico, whatever, it costs that truck driver twice as much money to drive the exact same miles now. Where do you think that's going to go? He has to charge the meat company, the distribution company, that much more for the rent.
The energy to produce the
and
boxes.
And it just keeps going down, right?
And then also the energy to keep everything refrigerated, and then the store. It's just a disaster. So you have the supply chain problems. You have these increasing prices, especially related to energy because of a misguided, to be polite, a misguided energy policy that we have here in the United States. And then you listen to people like Jake Sullivan. I saw Jake Sullivan interviewed last weekend. And, the word of the day, I think, for the Biden administration are these disingenuous arguments that they make. The disingenuous argument that he was making is when they talked about, they were asking him about America going from being a net energy exporter to a energy importer at this point in time, and the cutback on energy. And he said, well, we're still a major player in the energy market. Yes, Jake, we all understand that we're a major player, but we were once, not too long ago, for the first time in 50 years, the predominant player in that market. And we saw oil prices, gasoline prices under $2 a gallon.
1 minute.
And now they're predicting, 4.5 or so?
Yeah. Well, at one point, the cost of a barrel went so low that it couldn't sustain the infrastructure of the oil industry.
Right,
and Trump came out and said, no, we actually have to raise the cost of the barrel to at least $40 so that the system can function and make enough money to keep the lights on. And that's where we were. But I mean, to be energy independent rather, and not have to go hat in hand to OPEC or even Putin. It's an embarrassment at this point, but I know we have to.
It's crazy, Joe. It really is crazy. Well, we're going to have to, unfortunately, take a quick time out just for the local and national news at the bottom of the hour. We'll hear what's going on there. When I come back, we're going to continue this conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about inflation as well as other geopolitical issues that are creeping up. There are a lot of those right now on the horizon for everybody to deal with. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can at 508-871-7000. Again, that's 508-871-7000. I'll be right back.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830, WCRN, Worcester, Metro West.
He's got a bladder that big. Let me try.
Actually, it's been a lifelong condition for him.
Urinating? Yeah, I've done it since birth too.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Gerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Gerry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We're going to have on and off clouds for today, even the chance for just a quick passing sprinkle at some point this afternoon. Most of your day is going to be dry and very mild. We're looking at highs around 50 degrees, which is going to be, over 10 degrees above average for this time of the year. I'm Gerry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
Another thrilling Thursday in New England.
Saturday.
I'm today.
I guess it's supposed
February
to be very
10th.
nice. Sunny and fine.
Not-for-profit organization.
That's why on Friday night I want to be very careful with these drunken friends of ours.
Has won the day.
Saturday I want to have a nice
values
day.
enshrined in our constitutional republic.
Yeah.
In a settlement with the Wellesley Public Schools, the shockwaves have a radical school district following suit and backing off a string of policies that support racially segregated affinity groups. The settlement states that the school district will not exclude students from activities or group programs on the basis of race. The lawsuit was also required to challenge the bias reporting procedure that authorized the school to punish speech that is capriciously determined to be offensive or demonstrates conscious or unconscious bias. Racially segregated affinity groups have been commonplace in the Wellesley Public Schools and must now cease, along with rescinding the bias reporting procedure. This important precedent will affect other radical ideas of dangerous ideologies present in our public education system. The
genocide
WCRN News
games,
is
I mean,
brought
that's
to
the
you by John
hashtag
the
on
Roofer,
social
a
media.
leader
Yeah,
in
it
the
is.
roofing
People
and
go to
home
bars and say, "No,
improvements
can you put on
business
the
for more
Olympics?" And
than
they go, "No, we don't
17
watch the
years.
genocide
Call
games here."
866
And this
All right, guys,
sponsors
here we
nobody's
go.
been rating worst ratings
or go
ever.
to the internet and
Maybe
see
the- And
I'm like, good.
johntheRoofer.com.
We can touch on that.
Yeah, I love it.
You're listening to Political Thursday on Full Service Radio 830 WCRN. Once again, here's your host, Gerry Doherty.
Tax the rich, feed the poor, tell there are no rich no more.
Welcome back to Political Thursday. We're sitting here with Joe Mangiacotti. And Joe, we were talking a little bit about that inflation picture. Doesn't really bode well for the November midterm elections that are coming up in not too many months. It's amazing. It's just it's really right around the corner.
It is. It's going to be
we
very
are racing
quick.
through February. I think our producer Ted has his hand up. Yes, Ted.
Well, something's been irking me since the end of the last segment.
Sure.
There's something else that's back from the early 80s and late 80s. It's not just inflation, but it's the realization that the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
How so do you mean that?
Well, you said it. Joe Biden, in his heart, I'm sure feels that these policies are important for the future of America. I can't believe that he's doing this out of malice.
Well, I don't think he's doing it out of malice, but I also think it's just it's an incorrect conclusion that the administration comes to. What they do is you can give, I believe, most Americans a set of facts, and I believe that the majority, the preponderance of people, will come to a logical conclusion about how to deal with that set of facts.
I guess that's my point.
The Biden administration seems to be pulled so far to the left,
yes,
that they just have an agenda that is out of step with, I think, number one, basic American principles, but more importantly, with the midterm elections not that far away, with the majority of Americans.
Well, Jimmy Carter, the peanut farmer, I mean, his intentions were bona fide.
See,
he
I
had a
believe
great feeling for America, but it was the road to hell.
Well, see, I believe that Jimmy Carter absolutely believed he was doing the right thing, right down to where I'm not going to leave the White House to the hostages or that type of thing, and is really a good person. Joe, I think, has showed us that he can have a little bit of a nasty and vindictive streak in him. And now he's surrounded by people who have made it known that their way to get to their agenda is to make it so uncomfortable for us to be able to drive gas cars, live in houses that aren't, totally green, to eat meat. Like, so they're what they're doing is they're steering the policies and the ship towards the breakdown of life as we knew it as Americans and making it uncomfortable. I mean, we had the Baker administration kid on that Zoom call who slipped and said, "Oh, we made it as painful, for businesses. Now we have to make it painful for the citizens of Massachusetts." Of course, he's gone, but that's a peek into the mindset around Joe Biden. I don't think that this is the result of policies. I think exactly the result they were going for.
It's very Machiavellian. They don't care how they get there.
Yes.
And they don't care how much pain they inflict on the average American family. And there is this war. I've been saying this, on this program for 6 months now, that Joe Biden has a war on minorities. Joe Biden has a war on the middle class. When you look at the crime rates in the cities right now from these Biden policies, from these, very liberal DAs and so on that are being put into place, especially in these blue cities, that is a war on minority groups that occupy a lot of these inner cities. Then you also look at these inflation numbers from today. These are two very, good examples of this. There are many others. But you look at these inflation numbers that come out today, this is a real war on the middle class. When you think about the, family, the average family that's out there, they might be making $100,000 a year, $120,000 a year with both husband and wife working. Well, to make that same $100,000 to have the same purchasing power today, according to these CPI numbers, they now need to make $107,500 a year. That's a big jump. It's a big jump, and not everybody can keep pace with that. Plus, they're spending likely a disproportionate amount of their money on energy, heating their home in the middle of the winter here in New England, and then also on food, especially if they have a couple of kids.
And saving less.
And saving less. And saving less money. So it really is, it's a war that they've created on these things, all to move their agenda forward. They simply don't care.
No. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So unlike maybe Carter, where things got to where they were, well, he was truly, and I believe this, he's still alive, and I still believe to this day that he's actually a good person who just didn't understand how to be the president, right? And Biden, I don't think that's the case. I think he has shown that mean streak, that little vindictiveness. The way he refers to Neanderthals and all
Joe,
the things.
do you think that's consistent, though? That lashing out, isn't that kind of consistent with aging and cognitive problems?
Yeah, he's a cranky old man.
He's a cranky old man.
You
kind of see that. Isn't that further evidence that maybe we do need this cognitive test with the president?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't understand. I mean, basically, Donald Trump was bullied into taking it and passed and was fine. And I would like the exact thing. I don't want any margin of error here or anybody to say that the exact test that was issued to Donald Trump, I think, should be issued to Joe Biden under the same circumstances and conditions, and see where the chips fall.
Right. And look, I got to tell you, you are not a doctor. I am not a doctor, but we certainly can connect a couple of dots. When you see a lot of Joe Biden's behavior, you look at some of these speeches, he seems to be really drifting. And then also the, abrupt, stops that he has kind of in the middle of sentences and then coming back with a completely different thought. And then the anger piece of it.
Yeah.
Especially on camera. I understand how some of these things happen, behind closed doors.
You knew Hillary Clinton was a truck driver off camera, right? I mean, you heard the stories. You heard swore like a trucker and screaming and throwing stuff. You heard those stories. You hear about Kamala's ability to be in the office, but they never allowed it on camera. They never allowed us to be able to peek into it. But Joe, I don't think he cares. It doesn't matter. Like it's, whether the camera's on or not, I don't think there's that switch saying turn on. Bill Clinton had a turn on switch, right? Barack Obama had a turn on switch. Trump never had a turn off switch. He just, he was just going, regardless. So Joe Biden just lacks that, but not in a good way.
Just lacks that is right. So Joe, it is kind of funny though when you look at the Biden administration right now. Rather than talking about all these things that are not going well. Whether we talk about geopolitical things, what's going on in China with Taiwan, what's going on right now with these, genocide games, whether we talk about, Russia on the geopolitical stage, with troops on the border of Ukraine and, Boris Johnson's comments the other day, this is, the most dramatic thing in decades to hit Europe. Whether you talk about the U.S. economy and inflation spiraling out of control at 7.5%, the highest in 40 years, whether you talk about oil, it's over $90 a barrel.
Yeah.
The White House just a few months ago, Jen Psaki, a month ago, was saying that, oil is not going to be at $100 a barrel. Well, you know what? We're not that far away right now.
When has Jen Psaki ever got anything right? I mean,
she hasn't gotten anything right.
She's a horrible job.
The question I would ask is turning this thing around. Is there anything that you can think of that's going well in the Biden administration? Is there one thing that anybody can think of, 508-871-7000, that's going well in the Biden administration? I'd like to find one item that the president has made better here in the United States since January 20th of 2021.
I got it. He has woken the American people.
I was just going to say
to the idiotic behavior.
He's increased the number of Republican candidates. That's about the silver lining I can find.
Increased the number of Democrats leaving the system.
Leaving or asking to be separated, right? Because we've got the group of Democrats who's saying, look, we want to be known as the normals, and we're not part of the squad of this ultra left. So you got that happening. If you got Democrats actually changing party affiliation.
And Gerry, you're making a very good point. There's very little we can point to that is positive and upbeat with regards to Joey Biden.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I really don't. I mean, if you look at these policies, somebody may say, well, he certainly, through some of these programs that they've had, they've helped a lot of families during COVID. That's true. However, the other side of that is that there's also been an atmosphere of dependency that's been created by many of these families, and people have had a difficult time going back to work because of a lot of these programs. They did stay on the sidelines for a long period of time. I cannot honestly think of one substantive thing that Joe Biden has done in now 13 months of being president of the United States that has benefited the American people.
Well, he has advanced this expectation of endowment, and it's going to be coming to me. I don't have to ask for it.
Yeah. And I deserve it. It's owed to me. And let's not forget, out of all of this money that's been shuffled around and printed and so forth, there's over $2 billion in fraud. $2 billion in COVID fraud, right? People are getting
$2 trillion, I'm sure.
Well, the ones that they've caught so far
is $2 billion.
$2 billion in people who have scammed the system.
I can't. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is, including and this is the other thing, with all the money that's gone into the teachers in the school systems. Start looking at that, because there is so much money that has gone to the schools, and they're not like replacing all the ventilation systems and all that. So where's the money going? We have a couple Chicago teachers who have been busted for embezzlement, right? That happens. So you think about that, times that across the country, and we're going to find another large amount of money that's been embezzled out of the teachers' money. So there's a lot of fraud there. So let's remember, when you start throwing around trillions of dollars, right there, that is just setting people up that say, I got to get a piece of that and I'm going to scam it. And they're doing that. But that's just a side thing. We have to stop printing the money. People were warning, right? We had politicians, economists, just Joe Sixpack saying, hey, slow down the printing of the money, and throwing it out there to everybody. When all this goes up, what I was thinking about when you were talking about the family and the price, on top of that, remember, like the Social Security recipients and SSDI people and low-income people, this inflation affects them more than they do that couple making 100,000. They can better absorb it than someone making 22,000. And in gas, I've always maintained this, folks. Gas is the most punitive and unfair tax to the middle class that there is, right? Because these are the people who work on a wage or set salary. They have to go to work. They have to drive 38 miles round trip every day, or whatever their situation is. So they have to buy the gas. They cannot not buy the gas.
Okay, guys.
And
so that's mean that something else goes.
Yeah, and Joe, I will tell you, one tank full of gas for somebody who has less money than somebody who has more money represents a greater portion of their income. There's no question. So that's really true. We're going to take a quick time out. You're listening to Gerry Doherty and Joe Mangiacotti on Political Thursday. Our telephone number here is 508-871-7000. Again, that's 508-871-7000. We'll be right back.
Send lawyers, guns, and money. Oh!
There are many health benefits found with CBD Bio-Naturals. Fight infections, inflammation, and stress. Visit cbdbionow.com.
Experiments and the force and the rapes, marriages, and all this. I've had people, when I would talk about the Uyghurs 3 years ago, I'd have people message me saying, "That's false. You're fucked. That's not happening. You and your bullshit right-wing conservative conspiracies and all this." And I'm like,
right.
Wow, and I have friends who are Taiwanese, and obviously I had a husband who was Taiwanese, but I have Chinese friends, and it's amazing that the propaganda in China, they're told, because all news is controlled by the state. It's not like there's a Fox News in China. They're told, the Uyghurs, but the Uyghurs are they're told they're very happy. They have great lives. Go check out. And they have these stage camps. And so the average Chinese person, and I have a friend who's a Chinese police officer, he earnestly believes that the Uyghurs are happy.
His name is not Charlie Chan, is it?
No,
because I think I've heard of him.
No.
So, Gerry, there's one other thing. There's another thing that Joe Biden's policies and administration has caused an increase in.
Yeah.
The number of children seeking mental health.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Well, that's the lockdowns, right, have caused suicide.
I'd like to do a
attempts.
whole show on that. The war that Joe Biden has on children, the war that Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer,
the whole Democratic
and
Party.
of course, come on,
1 minute,
have on children, have on minorities, have on the working class, the middle class.
Well, what about this? How about in December 18th, somebody starts the impeachment of the vice president and the president. The Republicans have taken over the House and the Senate, and whoever is the
Speaker would be elevated to
the president.
Yeah.
Speaker of the House, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, number 3.
You gotta wait
So would it be
January.
is it going to be Kevin McCarthy?
Yeah, I think it will be.
It might be. It might be.
Because Jim Jordan, people, Jim Jordan should be.
And get all
And
your
I saw
snack
him
needs as
on
well
an
as milk
interview.
and
He was
all
asked that
at
question, and
competitive
he said
prices.
no.
All right, here we
That
go.
won't empty the wallet. Yetco Food Mart serving
He
you
wants
best for
chairman
over
of the
25 years. Yetco.
Now, Political Thursday continues on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Once again, here's your host, Gerry Doherty.
Tax the rich, feed the poor, don't around old rich no more.
Welcome back to Political Thursday. I'm sitting here with Joe Mangiacotti. Joe, I just heard this morning, I was kind of channel surfing around before I left the house. Apparently, there's some type of Olympic game going on or something.
Yeah, you wouldn't know it by the ratings, that's for sure. Because no one's really watching it. And that's incredible. The lowest ratings in the history of the Olympics. So you have these companies that have spent billions of dollars, right, to sponsor it.
They deserve
There's
it.
a $7.4 billion TV rights paid.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's, the tagline, right, the hashtag, if you go on social media, it's genocide games. And you've got bars and restaurants that refuse to put it on because of the genocide of the Uyghurs and so forth. And then the companies, Airbnb and Nike and all these companies that have sponsored, they're reading the tea leaves, and because they pay a fortune to be able to use those rings. They're not using the rings. They paid the money and they're like, oh, forget, we're not putting the Olympic rings on any of our stuff. We don't want, no, because the backlash is, and now you've got people who are tweeting constantly saying, I was looking to buy this or that, and this one is sponsoring the Olympics, made my choice easy. Welcome to my new thing. And that's it. And the backlash of this is great. And what I like out of this, I mean, I don't like the situation with the Uyghurs, but I like the attention that's finally coming to it. This is a topic I've been talking to for years.
Is this kind of one of those, unintended consequences?
I think so.
It is very interesting because this almost has brought more publicity to the Uyghur situation and also just to the CCP in general.
And you got Nancy Pelosi.
Had we boycotted the Olympics.
Exactly.
This is, I think, a better thing. And also let corporate America, who are stupid enough to, spend hard-earned money on the Olympics, let them now feel the backlash of this, how there are no ratings for this. Their message is not getting out there. The audiences are one half. Our producer, Ted, has his hand up again.
Well, it's also exposing people in our government that are obvious cheerleaders for China.
There you go.
Right.
Because you've got Nancy Pelosi, who comes out and basically makes an announcement to the athletes and Americans over there, don't be American. Don't speak up. Don't rock the boat, right? The Chinese government's ruthless. Yeah, but you're in bed with them, right? Your portfolio is
What about this young woman, Ted and Joe? What do you think about this young woman, the skier?
Oh, okay.
Who won the gold medal, who is an American, who's actually competing for the Chinese. And now I heard her say, it was either yesterday or today as I was in my car, she's saying that she did this because, she's very opinionated and that's what America is all about. And she's speaking her mind and wanted to represent China. So how do you speak out in favor of the CCP, in favor of communism effectively, and still say that you're doing this on an American platform? The opposite would never happen.
Right.
It's just so crazy. I think it's so disloyal to the United States of America for this woman to be competing for the Chinese and then also to be making the comments that she makes right now. I think she's a disgrace. I'll be very honest.
This smacks of the Reagan joke that he stole from Truman about delivering a Republican platform from a Democrat pile of.
I don't know the joke. I don't know.
Well, basically, a Republican comes to town, and the local people say, "We've never seen a Republican." He says, "Well, let me deliver my speech." And they said, "Is there a platform I can stand on?" They said, "Well, there's that pile of manure right over there." So he goes and climbs to the top of the pile, delivers his speech, and comes down. And the press asks him, "So, what was so significant about it? Your experience here?" He says, "The first time I've delivered a Republican speech from a Democratic platform."
Got it. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Truman's wife wouldn't let him say SHIT.
Right.
So,
Right.
that's where the manure thing came in.
Well, look, it just brought attention to the Uyghur situation. Like you said, it's kind of unintended consequences. And China thought, okay, great, we got this. We're going to build the Olympic Village. We're going to clean things up. We'll get everybody under control. And then that move about putting the Uyghur out there to light the torch on the opening ceremonies and everything was clearly it's a propaganda and propagandists. And that was it. And everybody's kind of awake to this. And the fact that it's trending and it's now known as the Genocide Games. I think this is great, and I hope
it's the old what they did with that torch thing, Joe. It's the old thing about I have nothing against Uyghurs. I have Uyghurs as some of my best friends.
Yeah,
it's really
it is.
That's essentially what they're doing. They can carry torches in the Olympics. Look at all that we allow.
And that's what they've convinced the people. I have friends in China that I talk to on a regular basis, and they're told by their state-run media that the Uyghurs are happy. They're in their little places and they're beautiful camps and they're really happy. So don't worry about it. We love everybody and we take care of them.
Subjugated, no freedoms. Of course they're happy. Who wouldn't be happy under those conditions?
So this is great. And I hope that the sponsors who paid to and did this and got into bed with China and all this, I hope they have a horrible quarter. I hope they lose a fortune because that's the only language that they understand.
Right. And can you imagine for the next Olympics, what are you going to do in another 4 years? You're going to say, hey, look at the last 4 years. I mean, this was a magnificent success. I didn't realize, too, I heard on the news the other day, I believe that this is accurate. I heard on the news the other day that there are no Americans on the International Olympic Committee who make some of these decisions about where these games are going to be held and everything. Apparently no American representation.
How could that happen?
I don't know, on the IOC. Huh. It just seems rather amazing to me that there is no American involvement in that. Clearly, they shouldn't be held in these controversial places. No. And then also, not having spectators. Can't we have these in free societies where actually have spectators going to these games and all of that?
Yeah.
But
well, look, we had it in North Korea.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the ratings didn't suffer like this.
Was it the WHO who chose this location? It probably was.
Yeah, it might have. They needed the medical part of it put into. I don't know. There are so many great places on the planet.
Maybe it was I think maybe it was the WWO that chose.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. All right, anyway, Joe, anything coming up this weekend on your program? We're almost out of time here.
Of course, the Super Bowl weekend. So that, right. But I'll be in Saturday, Sunday morning. I think Dr. Larry Federer will join me Saturday at 7, Monday afternoon at 1. And we'll just do our normal thing,
Sounds good. All right. Well, we are just about out of time for this Political Thursday show. Political Thursday is heard every Thursday right here on WCRN from 10 to 11 in the morning. And following this program is my retirement planning program named Making Money Last. So I'm going to stay right behind this microphone, get another cup of coffee in between this and the next show. And until next week, I wish everybody a very happy week.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.